Barbara Allen here, back to the genealogy story. This is going to be our part 3. We were just leaving Eloy. And I just need to square some stuff away here from that second spot. You know, Grandma and part of her family she's being sent ahead because of the drama she's caused. She got caught cheating on her husband, and her husband's not there. No big deal. Blah, blah, blah. They're going to just separate her from the man and get her off to another state and hope that things don't blow up too much and hope they hadn't killed the man. So, and at this point I have to say, yes, clearly, you know, I do know the name of my dad's dad now. But I didn't then, and I didn't know anything about him. So I'm going to try and leave his name out of it and what I knew about him out of it until another issue. You know, because, it just gets complicated. So let's stick with what I know from my grandma's family as she is sent towards the Bay Area, where she eventually finds out she's pregnant, and she's having a baby, and she has the baby in, Los Palos, in that area of the Bay Area. So that's in August of 42. So keep in mind, you know, she gets pregnant the second week of November, maybe the third week. 2 weeks later, it's Pearl Harbor, and we're in the war. Okay? Pearl Harbor, and we're in the war. And so we, my family, we don't know if this guy took off for the war right afterwards, and we never heard from him again, and maybe that's why we never heard from him again. Was Grandma, you know, wishing some soldier goodbye? You know, again, Grandma took the secret to the grave. She was not telling nobody, and she was pretty convinced I wouldn't find out. Fuck you, whore. I found out. So anyhow, I am going to tell you this. The man who became my dad's father, turns out, wasn't some soldier that was going to disappear. Although a couple of his cousins availed themselves heroically in World War II. That's a whole other story for another time. But this fella, my dad's dad, as I spoiler alerted earlier, was also married to someone other than my grandma. And unlike my grandma, who was separated from her husband, he was off in California working for Wilton Madden was off in California working for the telephone company, putting in telephone poles, telegraph poles, shit like that. But he, Mr. Grandpa, Mr. Biological Grandpa, was living with his wife and his in-laws at the company store closest to the migrant camp my grandma was staying at. My grandma and her bench family members were staying at. When I say company store, some of you will know what I mean by that. It's you know, this is a store provided by the farmers. It's probably not, you know, basically this is where your farm staff are going to do their shopping at the company store. Now, this wasn't your classic company store like Country Song, but you know, this was a family that was selling goods, dry goods and other goods to the families in the camps. And I have actually been to the site of this store where my grandpa was living upstairs from the store. I've been to it's tore down and covered up in blackberries and whatnot, but I've been to the spot out in the middle of the cotton fields. And the camp is actually on prison ground now. What the camp used to be is actually a for-profit prison, I think, out there outside of Eloy. I've walked the dusty fields where all this shit went down. But Grandpa was living there with his wife and his in-laws and his daughter, and had another child on the way. And as luck would have it, or unluck would have it, the drama that him and my grandma caused came down on him too, because that was the end of his marriage. Shortly thereafter, I don't know whether she caught him right then or shortly thereafter, but she caught him soon enough in her next pregnancy that she never told him she was pregnant with that other child. And she ran away and gave birth to that child amongst some of her cousins. This is her mom. This is his wife. But she went and had that baby elsewhere and gave the child up for adoption to her cousins, so this grandpa would never know that he had that child. So she did not think much of his parenting skills. And yet, she left her 2 older children. That's right, there were 2 older children. There was his son as well. She left her 2 older children with him and ran away. Had that next baby and gave that child away. But she ran away from him. But she left her kids with him. I'm not sure how that worked. Again, it's 1941, 1942. He may have been one of those, if you try to take the kids, I'm just going to kill you and keep the kids. I don't know. He didn't sound like he was a very nice fellow. My grandpa did not sound like he was a very, very nice fellow. So anyway, again, I still haven't given up his name, but he was living there in the company store, so you can imagine how he and my grandmother met. And again, if my grandmother, because she had a 2-year-old child, if maybe she was babysitting all the little kids, she would be the one being sent to go do the shopping, while other people were doing the cotton picking. She would be the one that would be sent down there while babysitting. She would be the one staying in camp watching children. So that's how she ended up getting into this affair anyway, and that's how she ended up getting caught having the affair in the camp. That dude had literally come from his place, because he couldn't bring Grandma to the store that he was living above because his wife and children and his in-laws were living there. So he had to come to the camp to literally do a little lust in the dust. Yeah. Ain't so hard to be humble, is it? Lust in the dust sounds like a John Waters movie. So anyway, Grandma's been sent off to the Bay Area. This man has blown up his his marriage, or is about to. And unbeknownst to him, he's going to be heading west towards California as well. Though my grandmother and my grandfather, as far as we know, never saw each other again. There are rumors that my grandma tried to find him later on in the Bay Area. But my dad seemed to have memories of going to some farm festivals that he didn't understand why they were going to them, but my research lends credence to the idea that she might have been looking for his extended family during some of these time periods. I can't be certain. But anyhow, so yeah, 1942, my dad was born in Los Panos, Los Gatos, and never met his father. Never met that brother or sister that were living in the store, his older brother and sister, or his damn near twin sister that wasn't even raised around her other siblings. So yeah, he's got 2 older siblings, and then he's got one right at his age. And those 3 are full siblings. But then he has at least one more child with another wife. And there's rumors that there might be another kid out there for him. So. And he wasn't the only one. Turns out his dad, my great-grandfather, left great-grandma in Oklahoma and moved to Arizona. And that's where my grandpa, the one that met my grandma, came to stay with his wife leaving, family abandoning dad in Arizona. Because both of them were kind of the same way. And we'll get more, again, once we get more into who he was, I will explain more why the men in that family and the religious women in that family and the drunk men in that family didn't mix well. But anyhow, so, this is part 3, the old man's living above the store. And we'll tell you more about him later. But right now we've gotten to 1942, August 42, Max Wayne Madden is born, and Wilton Madden knows damn well it's not his kid because he hasn't seen his wife close to a year. So there's zero chance that that child is his, and he knows it. And he says it. And somehow, some way, the families got together, got him to calm down and sign off on the birth certificate, put his name on the birth certificate, and then they immediately go through a divorce. It's immediate. You know, the fact that she was pregnant at all, he knew it wasn't his kid because he hadn't seen her. So Wilton knew it wasn't his. Wilton knew my dad wasn't his. That's not my kid. Came right out of his mouth, and you knew it did. Now, he played dad. He pretended. He picked up. My dad said he remembered being picked up for a couple of birthdays, and he still got treated as, you know. But Wilton played along, but he didn't do it for free. There's some sort of payout. Believe me, Wilton Madden didn't do that for free. Maybe it was the no-fault divorce. Maybe it was, you know, because he turned around and got married right away. Yeah. Wilton managed to get himself killed by his next wife. But that's another story. And I think we'll cut this one right here. We are episode 3 of my genealogy story, fleshing out my genealogy kink. Barbara Allen here. I'm out.